Jeff Kober, so good to see you. Welcome to the show finally.
Thanks so much, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. So audience listening to this, last time we were just recounting this story. Last time we attempted to record, Jeff came over and had all the gear set up. We're ready to go. And at that particular time, I was having some kind of meltdown, probably related to a relationship issue. And then we ended up just having a talk off mic, which probably, if it wasn't so personal, it could have been a really good podcast episode.
Could have been a good podcast, yeah.
Basically, we spent the hour rather than recording just dealing with my goddamn issues, whatever it was. So
stylist in crisis.
Ah, dude. So I'm really glad to see you. And now that we have mics on, maybe I can probably think of some other ongoing dilemma that we could actually get into for the fun of it. So let's dive in. So, dude, for the audience that doesn't know you yet, you're an actor and you're a meditation/spiritual teacher. And that's an interesting combination. So let's start with how you got into acting. You're from Montana. I already know that because I know you. Did you watch movies when you were a kid and dream of being an actor, or did that just happen when you moved to Hollywood?
No, it happened. I didn't dream of being in the movies because where I grew up, children were not really told about the possibilities of life. They weren't really told anything. They were just shut up and listen sort of thing.
Thrown out in a field to like mend a fence or something?
Yeah, kind of like that. And without even knowing why you were mending a fence, just go to work. In third grade, I was sent out to weed the bean field. And and it's fine for kids to work, but there was no gathering together of like, okay, this is what the family does, and and we need this done, and come on, let's do it, and keep going, kid. It was like indentured servitude. But then I was in college, and the first time I saw acting really was I was a trombone player for all sorts of different reasons. When I came back to college after having dropped out for a long time, and I ended up playing in the pit orchestra of Fiddler on the Roof. And I suddenly was watching these actors and going like, oh my God, these are people I've seen around the school, and now they're up there and they're doing, and it was really kind of an eye-opening experience for me. Still, it didn't strike me that I could do that. And then and by the way, the conductor of that orchestra was J.K. Simmons, Academy Award-winning
No
actor.
way,
Yeah.
really?
His father was the head of the music school, and he was getting his conducting degree. And then I dropped out of school again and followed a woman to Los Angeles. She was going to be an actress, and she was really otherworldly. She'd probably be on some sort of spectrum if she were ever diagnosed, but she would stand in front of the mirror for hours and make her face change and see strange things for herself. Again, I wasn't an actor until that relationship broke up. A band I was playing in broke up. I was doing my very first and only office job at Getty Oil Company. I was a temporary paralegal. And I remembered that going to college and taking classes made sense. You were given something to learn. You learned it. You were tested. You could tell how you did. And I was just asking the other people I was working with. It was a whole band of misfits, in this temporary position. And this woman said, I go to this acting class. I think you'd like it. And so I went and sat in on the acting class, and with Maria Gobetti at the Victory Theater. She's still teaching there. And for the first time ever, I saw where all the emotions that were inside of me made sense. I saw that there was a reason for them, that there was a use for them, that feeling life as bigly as I felt it. I'm sorry, that probably sounds like a Trumpism there. That there was a way to put that into action. I didn't have to just cover it up or push it down with getting drunk or whatever. And it was like a real awakening for me.
With the motive there, which sounds like not to judge a motive, but it sounds like a pretty pure and healthy motive, that you're finding a way of just addressing your human expression, right? A lot of people I found in the arts, and this has been true of myself for playing music, I love music. I love performing. I love recording, getting sounds, writing songs. Like I really am in love with music, but I also had a massive motivation in low self-worth, feeling like a piece of shit. And then if I could just make it in the eyes of the world and get that attention and those accolades, that I would somehow be fulfilled. Was there any motive that you maybe perhaps later discovered that's like, I want to be famous, so I'm somebody, because you maybe didn't feel like someone on the inside?
Take it back a step or forward a step, I'm not sure which way, but there was, I discerned later on that it was about getting approval, but it wasn't on a global scale or a mass scale that I was looking. I was just looking for someone to look at me and say, you're okay.
So even like in the process of shooting a scene where someone's like, damn, you nailed it, even just that, not necessarily being, at the Academy Awards in a tux.
Yeah. Just because my generation, we were raised, there was no, look, kids make sense of their life. They learn what they learn, and they see what they see, and they feel what they feel, and then they come up with a mythology, usually that's handed to them through a church, through their parents, and then added on to, where they are the cause of everything. And when you feel bad, you think it's your fault. And when the parentals look at you with disapproval, you never quite come up to where you're supposed to be, it's your fault. And you never can quite, and you're trained to seek approval. And so, yeah, absolutely, that was a part of it. So it was the first thing was, there's some place where I can put all of this, because I was filled with stuff from things that happened in my childhood that were soul crushing and that were my fault, quote unquote, air quotes.
Right. Thank you for that, because half of this is video and half audio, so it's good that people. Sometimes when I record audio with people, they forget and they'll do hand motions or some sort of body language dependent communication. I'm like, no, you have to explain it. This is on someone's headphones, or they're listening in their car. So thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I think approval plays in there when you're taught to seek approval to be okay. And when you're not given any tools to know that you don't need approval, that it's okay just for you simply to be, yeah, that's in there. But then as an actor, you come to a point where you do get approval, and it doesn't fix anything. And then you go, is there some other reason I'm doing this?
Right.
And it's an important question for any artist to ask themselves. It's an essential question. Because then you start getting in touch with, well, what else is there that for me to be doing this? Why am I doing this? And is it still something I want to do, even knowing that the approval is not enough?
So let's say you get to a certain level of awareness and you're able to distill down, I guess you could say, a true heartfelt motive to express yourself creatively, right? Like a really legitimate, wholesome reason to pursue something. Is there, and then you discover kind of the reasons that were maybe, the lower motivations from the ego and whatever. Is there a point at which the creative process becomes its own reward, and the outcome and the outer success become less relevant or important to you?
Absolutely. And
because you just like dig what you're doing?
Because it's like, I was just telling this to someone yesterday, or 2 days ago. We went on a photo shoot, and I was telling Marco the fact that it's about finding that, it's all about finding the place where you can flow. And it's the feeling of flow. And I was telling him, I said, I could never act again and be perfectly happy. I teach meditation. I do photography. For those of you watching, this is not dirt. This is silver from my wet plate collodion photography. It's it will come off in a few days. It will wear off. I could never act again, and I would be fine with that. And yet, when I act, I come alive in a different way that I find it very challenging to do without that as a format and a forum within which to do that, a framework within which to do that.
Right. And what about the rest of the crap that comes along with pursuing that art. In my own subjective experience, I played music for like 15 years. I played in, someone asked me how many bands, and I'm like, I literally have to make one of those family tree little diagrams. So like how many different musicians and how many bands. And I mean, it's just years and years and years, more so than I realized, but now that I'm not doing it anymore. But I really liked certain parts of it. But I hated going to meetings with record companies. I actually don't like band practice. I don't even like live performing that much. I fucking hate touring. When I finally inventoried, it was like those sweet moments where I actually did the parts of music that I like, which is like sitting down with a friend and coming up with a song, creating something magical out of thin air, being in a recording studio, working on sounds, playing with different effects and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's 5% of the other bullshit that's required in order to be a professional musician, So what would you say the ratio is in terms of acting when you actually, you're doing a play or you're doing a scene in a show or a movie versus the auditions and the emails and the phone calls and all of the sort of, framework that you have to operate in terms of like being a professional and having a career as an actor?
I'm so glad you're putting it in those terms because I don't think of it that way.
That's probably why you're still doing it.
but it's when you ask that question, it's what I've done progressively over the years is learn more and more to enjoy everything. Because you can't go on an audition if it's about getting a job.
Right.
Because the ego gets in the way and won't let you have the experience that is meant to happen there.
Because you get attached to the results. And
you get attached to what you're going to put out rather than being in a frame of mind and a state where you're going to be spontaneously exploring something in front of other people and where you're going to be creating, like you said, just out of thin air. You do your work and then you do that. And, just hanging out on a set, waiting hours before they shoot you. If I divide it up and say this is the good bit and this is the bad bit, then I'm screwed. Because if I'm practicing being miserable until it's time to shoot, I'll get to being ready to shoot, and I'm miserable.
That's so true. I forgot about the time because coming from doing wardrobe for a long time, I didn't work in film and TV, but I did, like 50 commercials, I think, in my 17 years, which is a lot, And in commercials, there's takes. I mean, you've done a lot of commercials, it's like you might have to say, I really love my Toyota because, it gets me from point A to point B. And then the director's like, no, say it like this. I really love my Toyota because it gets, it's like on and on and on.
Just to be clear, I haven't done a lot of commercials.
Oh, you haven't?
No, they don't let me.
Oh, okay.
I was, however.
I was thinking of that.
The Buick happiness expert.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. Okay, yeah. But you're like really being the meditation dude for Buick, which was an interesting thing.
It was.
But what I was getting at was I forgot about, like, from the actor's standpoint, now I'm picturing you actors sitting in your motorhome for fucking hours waiting on your scene, and then you come out and do your scene, and I'm sure it's the same way in film and TV, and like that's the big moment where you get to have some fun. But you're right, if you're contextualizing the other 95% of the actual minutes or hours or days spent doing the work that supports the creative moments, then you're probably not going to enjoy your life very much as an actor or musician, painter.
No, and you're not going to bring your A game when the camera turns on. You've got to be practicing excellence and presence all the time.
Right. That's so great, dude. Because I totally contextualized and like I made a pie chart when I was really determining, do I want to play music? And it was like, wow, there's a little sliver of the time where I'm in flow state and like the band is clicking. I'm in sync with the drummer, the singer's in key. Everything's just right. The sound's good. My mix is good. And then I look at the other, 98% of the pie chart, and it's like I think about sitting in the fucking van, driving. We used to tour a lot in the UK in the last band I was in. We did 5 tours there, and it was freezing. We'd always go in the fall and winter. And all I can remember is just like laying in the back of the van trying to sleep. It was a Royal Mail van. It's not like I was in a tour bus. So I started to I guess it's just a pattern of the negative mind is to just find fault with any situation.
And you actually made up a pie chart to be really clear about how much negative there was realistically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Good stuff. And then, eventually I found other ways to be creative, and I actually enjoyed a lot of the other things that I did. And truth be told, I just really don't enjoy playing in a band. It's just like,
it's clear.
The thing about playing in a band, I always say, is it's great except for the fact that you have to hang out with musicians.
Musicians are a very strange set of people to have to try to hang
you play
out with.
music, you hang out with musicians. It's they're like the most beautiful, creative people, but at the same time can be the biggest pains in the ass, myself wholeheartedly included, and maybe at the top of the list. Okay, so in terms of acting, I mean, you've done a lot of great shows. And the funny thing is most people I meet know you from Sons of Anarchy or Walking Dead, and I got like a couple seasons in to Walking Dead because I was dating someone that was obsessed with it, that and she loved you and was excited to learn meditation from you and all that. And I would watch it to just kind of humor her, and it was a way we could share time together. And I actually really got into the show, but it was also so toxic for me that it would give me a hangover because we'd watch it like right before bed. And, my subconscious mind is seeing 60 zombies per episode being axed in the head. And it was like, as much as I liked it, I would have nightmares about being chased by zombies and all that. So I have to be honest, I haven't gotten to your season yet where you come in. It's like, but I don't want to jump to your episodes because I don't want to fuck the story up for myself, because I was actually really into the narrative of,
it's a great story.
Yeah, whatever season. And I love post-apocalyptic themes, like some of my favorite films, and just that theme of like when shit goes wrong and everyone's desperate and you get to see humanity come out in its best and worst in those moments, like watching the weather that we've been having. You see the looters, right? And then you see these amazing people of all races come together and help one another in such a beautiful way. So I like that theme, but I'm like, God, I got to like find a way to what's the word? Immunize? What's the fucking word? Immunize?
Immunize works.
Immunize myself against like the negative energy and the violence of it.
The darkness.
It's weird, man. I've become very susceptible to that dark side, which I used to be in love with my whole life, but just that type of really heavy, dark music and film and all of that.
Yeah, because it matched what the inside of you was feeling.
Right.
And it's like, oh, my people, or people who are even worse off than I am, or something that feels as fraught as it feels to be me.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question is, in terms of the type of work that you do and themes, I mean, like when you were on Shameless, it was really funny and you had this great character, and it was, there's like a comedic element to that whole show, and especially your part in it. And so I definitely saw that and enjoyed that because I love that show. It's dark in a way, but it's so sort of fun, and there's a lot of satire involved, so it doesn't really ring that toxic to me like a show like Breaking Bad or something. It was just like, oh God, this is so gnarly. As an actor, how are you able to sort of protect yourself energetically when you're playing a part that's this really dark character? Because you seem to be cast as kind of a rotten guy a lot of the time.
That's changing, actually.
It is?
Yeah, there are things that I'm doing these days where I'm not a rotten guy, and then there are other things I've just recently done where I am rottener than I've ever been. However, no one feels that they're rotten. No, the character themselves, him or herself, does not feel like they're a bad person more often than not. And an example, I did this episode of Law and Order SVU, and I played a guy who was, the leader of a cult and responsible for the death of about 25 kids, and I played it as a man of God, because that's what the guy was. And he was trying to give birth to the second coming, and he had a 12-and-a-half-year-old wife to do this with.
Jesus.
And yes.
I see where you're going with this. So this is good. This was what I had been called to do. And I even tried to help out Mariska Hargitay's character. Like, you play with this darkness all the time. You deal with darkness all the time. What is it in you that, you've been abused, haven't you? You were raped. Was it a family member? Like that kind of thing. And I was just really being that guy. And I had fun on the set. I was laughing with everybody and playing around, and it was
good work, and we were all doing it together. And then there was actually, for one reason or another, there was a gathering of my friends and family to watch this episode. The episode started, I lasted about 5 minutes, and I left the room because for me, I was being a man of God. In context, it was creepy as hell. But I wasn't seeing it in context. I was seeing it in my narrow context of, I'm doing it as well as I know how to do it. This is what I've been called upon to do. This is what I have a gift for. Let me give to you.
Well, this is the, we both are huge fans of David Hawkins, and I talk about his work all the time on this show because there's no way I can avoid it. But the way he frames different human beings at different stages of evolution or different incarnations is that each one of us has a level of consciousness, right? And every person, and I don't think he originated this idea, but every person is doing what they think is right at every given moment.
Yeah.
From George Bush to Hitler.
No, I think Socrates actually.
Okay, he was
who recorded who said that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he never at a point is any human being like, okay, what's the worst decision I could make right now? Well, yeah, let me do that. It's always like, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to exterminate millions of people. This is great. This is really going to help my country. It's like not to make light of something so devastating and horrific, obviously, as the Holocaust, but it's just an example of, it's within that person's framework that there is no darkness because they're living in darkness. So adding darkness to darkness creates no contrast.
That's well said.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're able to kind of sink into that character and be absolved of any guilt or influence on you, the real person, because you're becoming the character so much that you're almost like.
Well, and also if we take it in a wider context, there's a beautiful thing that you learn by studying the Vedic canon, and you see the absolute need for evil to be present in order for good to have something to do. I mean, imagine a story that...
Oh, man, that's a good tweetable. If I tweeted things like that.
But imagine reading a novel or watching a movie that begins, everything was great, and it continued to be great, and then it was great.
And every character was a protagonist and lived happily ever after.
And lived happily ever after. No, thank you. There's in the Ramayana, Ram, who is God incarnate, but continually forgets that he's God, and he just thinks of himself as a human being, and then he gets reminded. He has to. Ravana, the demon, has stolen his wife Sita, and he has to go rescue her, and this massive war takes place. And at the end, Ravana is pierced with 1,000 arrows, and he's lying there dying, and Ram's army is going to tear him apart because he cost them so much. And he said, no, stop. He's a magnificent creature. Didn't you see the way he fought? Let him die a dignified death. And, he goes to him, and he says, you're clearly superhuman character. Why did you choose evil? And he said, because I wanted to be next to you. And I knew by being good it would take me 1,000 lifetimes, but by being evil I could do it in one. And here I am dying with you by my side.
Wow.
So there's this thing of that evil is absolutely there in order for heroism. In order for a man or a woman to step beyond their limitations, their personal limitations, their ego limitations, and become the truth of what they are, there must be a challenge in order for that to happen. And that challenge must come from someone who is embodying other values. I won't even call them evil. They're just other values. They're values, as Hawkins would say, values of the animal nature, of the ego, of the need to fill oneself.
Yeah. Well, this is going to a great area right here. I was like, I'm always like premeditating the next sort of train of thought, but this is huge because I was just listening to this morning as I sat in front of my Juve. I got to show you this thing. We're done this fucking red light therapy thing. It's insane.
Okay.
It's insanity. I stand in front of that thing and I have this whole regimen that I do, and I always listen to some kind of spiritual podcast or audiobook. And today I was listening to the Ram Dass podcast, and it's just archives of all of his lectures. And it's a great one. It's very much in alignment with Hawkins' work, where he's talking about the necessity of darkness and evil in the human experience in order for us to evolve. And I think this is people have I think, struggle so much with the idea of God because of the existence of of eagles. If there were no eagles. And so the way he contextualized it was like, no, if what's best for your soul's evolution in this incarnation is to arrive and be born into a family in poverty in Kenya and be born with Down syndrome, or, you're missing a limb and a birth defect, and then you decide, yes, I'm going to be raped at 14 years old, and then I'm going to die when I'm 17. Like, all of that is predetermined, and from the people that observe that lifetime play out after you're born, it seems like there is no God and the world is full of darkness and evil. But that was a necessary incarnation, and those circumstances were absolutely perfect for that soul to evolve for those 17 years and get to the next point. And that whole thing. And you have to kind of buy into the idea, I guess, many traditions, but definitely in the Vedic tradition of the incarnations. And to me, I don't know if this is a way that I just make myself feel better for there being evil dictators and storms and shit and earthquakes in the world, but it's like, seems very much so that my suffering, although it's less than many people in the world have suffered, for me, my burden has been the heaviest, being an alcoholic and a drug addict and, sexual abuse when I was a kid, to neglect from my parents and all that stuff. Looking at it now, I'm like, wow, this is absolutely perfect. Like, thank God the world had some darkness available to me to go explore the shadow, to get really hurt, get beaten into humility, to where the most important thing in my life has become having conversations like this, which lead me to get closer to God and to help alleviate the suffering of other people that are suffering in ways in which I have and have seemingly surmounted in one way or another. So it's like, without darkness and struggle and evil and all of that, it's sort of like, why come here? Like, why have a planet and why have people if everything's unicorns and rainbows? Like, what's the fucking point? That's like sending a PhD to kindergarten. What are you going to do there?
Yeah.
Right? So what's your, how do you contextualize the existence of darkness and evil in the world and know that there's still a benevolent force of good in the universe that's allowing that spectrum of experience to take place?
There are so many different ways of looking at it, but a couple that are a part of my worldview are, number one, if it's said that if God is, then God is everything. Now, if God is everything, it doesn't mean just those bits that I like. It means the whole of it. And it means that God is available in all of those bits, and that I'm here in order to find God in all of those places. And if not find, at least to seek. To seek in every moment, in every situation, in every experience. What Hawkins says absolutely is I believe, the truth, that we come into this life in order to learn the lessons that we choose to learn as spirit. And I say we, as it is a personal choice. It's the choice of spirit to challenge itself in a certain way. And we choose exactly that set of parents and that set of circumstances that will allow us to take the next step that we have discerned for ourselves. And as Hawkins said, if we didn't have a world exactly like this, with all of its challenges, we would have to go build one exactly like this in order to advance ourselves.
Right.
And
I mean, isn't this the naivete of someone who thinks that we should have world peace and there should be no war and there should be no earthquakes and everything should just be complete harmony, and get on this like do-gooderism and saving the planet and saving the world and making everyone happy and get along? I mean, would that not defeat the purpose of having the experience?
Well,
like, you know what I mean? There's this fine line between, I'm just going to let the world be evil and let people suffer and not contribute and just watch football and, eat Cheetos or whatever, versus I'm going to go out and save the world because I have an idea of how the world should be. There's a certain arrogance in trying to save the world.
Well, yeah, and both of those are completely unworkable and untenable approaches to life.
Right.
But they're both of the ego.
Okay.
And as you kept saying eagle, because whenever you try to say evil, your mouth wanted to say ego.
Right.
And I really look at the world as I have demands being placed upon me constantly by my animal nature, which is experienced by me through what we call the ego, the spiritual ego, which is, you need an ego just to get out of bed and to walk out into the world. You need a sense of self. But when you live solely through that sense of self, you're at the mercy of the demands of the animal nature. And the demands of the animal nature are to keep itself safe, to procreate, and once safety is achieved, to find comfort. And that is always operating in me. And if I want to tune into those thoughts and those assessments, self-assessments and world assessments, then I'm going to have to make a choice of being a goody two-shoes or of saying fuck everything. And you can't fix anything or anybody, and you can't kill your way to safety or kill your way to peace or step out of life and expect to continue to have life. So all of that is happening all the time, but then there's something else that's going on as well, which is life, the whole of life, the oneness of life, wants to be lived through me. And it has, as its intention in the universe, a whole other set of values than those of the animal nature. Those are the ones I want to tune into, and the only way I can even begin to do that is to begin to characterize the demands of the animal nature as not important to me, and then have some way of tuning in meditation-wise to that still small voice, to that flow of life that is moving through me. And this is where the approach to creativity and the approach to life are on a spectrum. They're not separate. They're not different. What we're always looking for is flow. And flow requires that I'm grounded here in something that is true, meaning that doesn't change, which could not possibly be my thoughts and feelings, because they're completely different now than they were 5 minutes ago, than they were when I was parking the car, than they were when we got hooked up to all these wires. It's completely different. I can't ground myself in that, but I can ground myself in something else. And then I can put my attention out here, and that forms a binary system through which flow can occur. There has to be poles, for electricity, for current to move. There has to be a positive and a negative pole, a place from which it comes and a place that it goes toward. That flow is the movement of life. That's the movement of God, the movement of nature, the movement of enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. And in that configuration of life, I'm not a thing or an object, I'm a process. And because life and nature always is evolving itself, by joining into that process of me, I'm also going to be consistently and continually evolving as an expression of something other than my small demands.
So if we're following this framework of living our lives as individual expressions of God and consciousness, is that not the most meaningful expression and also the most powerful benefit to the world of just doing your own work versus apathy and just like, fuck it, the world's evil, I'm not doing anything, I don't give a shit. And then the other extreme of like, I'm going to be out on the street protesting, lighting shit on fire, changing the world, saving the dolphins, like getting caught up in do-gooderism is not what I'm hearing, like the middle path almost of like, I'm going to do my work and create an energy field around me so that anyone and anything I come into contact with, I'm going to be adding to rather than taking away from. Whereas the ego survival mode of life is very rapacious and is just constantly looking to take, or control to fix and make everyone else be a good person and eradicate evil and wrongdoing from the planet, which is a fool's errand. So is what you're describing more of a middle path where it's like be the change you want to see in the world, where you might be proactive, but you're also not, it's other words like Mother Teresa wouldn't protest against war. She would protest for peace.
Yeah, she never went to an anti-war rally, but she attended a lot of peace marches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that kind of the path in terms of how you would interface with the world and how someone could contextualize, well, I think the world needs to be different. I mean, I think that's the thing that is kind of irritating to me with the whole like activism aspect, is that it's like, was it Maharishi, I think, that said the world that you see doesn't even exist. You know, it's like, I'm going to change reality. Dude, I don't even know what the fuck reality is. This table right here is a bunch of swirling electrons. It's not even a real thing. I mean, the whole planet is a mirage on one level. So do you not do anything? Or, you know, where's the fine line there?
There's many questions that you're
I have a habit of doing that. I'll ask you 25 questions in one rant and then expect you to give me a cohesive answer.
I'm going to.
You see what I'm getting at, though?
Yes,
like,
I do.
How do you be a good person and make a good contribution to the world without being an a-hole and trying to control everyone and decide that you think...
That's a whole other question.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay. One thing you said earlier was that I'm going to work on myself and create an energy field around me
Yes.
that will change the people I come in contact with.
Or have a positive impact.
Or have a positive impact on the people who come within my event horizon.
Okay.
This is an astrophysical term.
Okay.
You're not going to create an energy field. You are an energy field.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And there's only one energy field, and it's consciousness.
Right.
And so what I do in consciousness absolutely has an effect on the whole of consciousness. And if I have the great gift of being able to know myself, even the tiniest bit as consciousness, then it's absolutely my responsibility to know the truth of myself to the greatest extent possible at every moment possible. Because that will lend what we can call adaptation energy to the rest of consciousness and the other people experiencing it. You know, it's there. I don't think there has ever been a time on the planet where it has been more challenging to be a human being than it is right now. Everything that the world is telling us is about separation and bifurcation and cutting itself into smaller and smaller bits. Not only, you know, like the different political systems, the different ways of looking at the world. Excuse me, you can edit that out, right? I just belched.
Yes, all bodily functions can be edited out, but we probably won't because it's funny.
Good.
I'll try and muster one up just to even the score.
There's a thing that's happening right now where people are finding safety, ego safety, in bonding against another group rather than bonding as a group. It's not that the people on the right share the same values, it's that they all hate the left. And it's not that the people on the left all share the same values, they just hate the people on the right and what they stand for, although the people on the left like to couch it in terms of not hatred, but just knowing what's right, and these people don't.
Yeah, elitist righteousness. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a negative polarization that's taking place. But even beyond that, you take it into smaller bits. I was just up on Wilshire. I dropped some film off and walked down the street to get some lunch, and I was standing at the street corner. There were 5 of us at the street corner, and 4 of us were looking at our phones. I was standing there going like, God, remember the old days where you would stand on a street corner and wait for the light to change, and you might say, hey, where'd you get that shirt? Or, you're working around here? You look like you're dusty from construction. You know, that don't happen anymore because people are with themselves and with their little, it's like, instead of listening to all your negative thinking and making pie charts to see how much you hate something, you're looking you're looking it up to see if there are other people who feel the same way you do, or there's something else you can be horrified by in today's news. Of course there is. It's today's news. You're going to be horrified by something. But this tiny little, for those of you listening at home, Jeff is making the gesture of holding an iPhone in his hand. We're getting more and more insular, and there's less and less about sharing. There's less and less about connecting. There's, we were talking about relationships earlier, and relationships are where you get to find out what you are. You get to find out if you're able to flow or not, if you're able to be present or not, if you're able to be seen or not, if you're able to actually look at another human being and care more about what's going on with them than about what's going on with you.
Wait, that's possible?
Not only is it possible, it's preferable.
Yeah. I'm halfway joking. But
I know, but you have to train yourself to do it.
Well, from the ego perspective, that is a non-paradigm. It's like it's that survival. But going back to what you said, because I was sort of couching this, how I'm going to interact as a spiritual being in the world, as like there's me as this isolated energy field, and I'm going to keep working on myself in this insular. What's that word? Insular way. And then that's going to have effect on the people. I love that you backed that up and you're like, no, dude, you can't be the wave that's separate from the ocean, essentially. It's like you have to be because you can't be, whether you think you are separate or not. You're not, because there's only one mind. There's only one life force, right, that we're all sort of tapped into. So I have to identify that, yes, I am a wave, but my wave is an expression of all the water in the ocean, right?
And it's not, according to the Veda, according to Advaita, which is the way that Hawkins speaks about it, just Dvaita is where we get it's the Sanskrit word that, it's where we get our English word divide. Dvaita means that which is broken, that which is divided. And if you add an A to the beginning of most Sanskrit words, you get the opposite. So Advaita is that which is not broken, which is not divided, which can't be divided. So in terms of Advaita, it's not one energy source that we're all tapped into. It's one energy source that we all are.
Okay, yeah.
I am the ocean.
That's just like further divided. I guess this is sort of like, I don't have a soul, I am a soul. A soul isn't like a compartment of my human experience. Like,
no.
It's just a category of who I am. It's like, no, the soul is who I am, and everything else is almost compartmentalized.
Well, and I would say more specifically, the soul is what I am.
Ah, okay. Because there is
because
no who.
As soon
there
as
is no who.
As soon as I say who, then it's like these are my thoughts, these are my feelings, and they're important because they're mine.
Right.
And they're shinier than yours, and I need to get you to have the same ones that I'm having so that I can feel like I have companionship and that I'm not wrong. And there is only soul, if you want to use that term, or spirit or consciousness, and each of us is an individual experience of that one whole complete thing. And there are as many ways to do that individual experience as there are individual experiencers. But they're all of the same thing. This is why, people who are virulent racists can, accidentally fall into a conversation with somebody who's of the race that they purportedly hate. But then soul is speaking to soul, and you forget to look at what divides you and what makes you different. And suddenly you're going like, wow, you're just a person like I am. You have the same hopes and fears. You have, the same desires. You're an expression of life too. How can I possibly hate? Well, it's those others. That's all ego. And I always have to return to knowing the truth of me. And truth is really specific. Truth is that which never changes. In high school, I played football, loved running into people, loved running over people, loved watching it, loved using my size. I was 220 in high school. It was just like, this made sense. Now I can't watch football because I know it's costing these men their lives, their minds,
Same here.
So there's nothing true about football.
So you're not a big MMA guy, huh?
I know what it is.
Yeah.
But
actually, it's funny. The other day there was a pretty historical fight between an MMA guy and a big boxer. I don't even know their names. That's how far removed I am. But because it was such a novel thing in sports, I was actually curious about it. I wasn't going to watch it because it just makes my heart hurt to see people like beating the shit out of each other. But I was like texting my brothers who were into it, and I was like, who's winning? Like, I was actually curious because it was just
McGregor lost in the 10th.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. And it actually, in terms of like that, that sport. It was a good fight. I remember when I was a kid, I watched Muhammad Ali and stuff, and that's when like boxing was boxing. They would go 9-10 rounds like that. And then sometime when I was a teenager, they just seemed to like get tired and hug each other. And it was just like, wait, what is this? Like,
yeah. Well, and then look what Ali spent the second half of his life with, all kinds of neurological dysfunction.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where at a certain level of consciousness, you resonate with something like that. And not that one's better than the other, but it's like I was talking to someone on the show the other day just about the different types of music I listened to when I was in high school. Like in high school, I loved heavy metal and punk rock. It's just like any other music that wasn't loud and aggressive and abrasive sucked. There's no way I would listen to anything. And as I've sort of changed and evolved, hopefully for the better, I can't stand that music. Even my favorite bands like the Stones or something, it's like I don't like the fast songs. It's like I listen to classical music and Kundalini mantras and, just like weird chanting and anything that's at all negative or angry lyrics or anything like that. It's just like totally doesn't resonate with me.
But you're also someone who has spent years learning to lessen the amount of that inside your own consciousness because you suffered at the hands of it within your own consciousness. So if you spend all this time learning to stop speaking badly to yourself and suffering within, you're certainly not going to invite somebody to throw that at you.
Yeah, totally. And that's like when like rap, like the more like hardcore rap music comes on and I listen to the lyrics, I'm like, dude, this is going to like, it would make someone get road rage or just like, how can you be in a good mood listening to someone just be fucking pissed off?
Well, but because it's resonant with some reality that's very loud inside that person.
Right.
And we're all looking for connection. So if someone on the radio is throwing something out that is resonant with the loudest voice inside of me, that's going to attract me. I'm going to want to bond with that because it allows, again, that feeling of flow to occur.
Right. And would you not say, I love how we're so nonlinear. It's great to have a guest that can go there with me sometimes. I mean, it's partially because of your personality, just your energy, but also I think because I know you. But when I interview some people, like I can't break them out of like their being interviewed formula, so everything becomes very linear and it's just boring that way kind of, probably for the audience too. But in terms of this direction right here, it's like you sort of have this radio receiver that you're tuned to at different points in your own evolution, right? And then there's things that are kind of on the same wavelength as you people too. Have you experienced in your life where you've outgrown different types of music or books or shows or art or even relationships where
completely.
Like it seemed totally normal at one point and then you get a different vantage point from the inner work that you're doing and you're like, whoa, holy shit, how was I ever involved in this or that?
Well, it's absolutely. I mean, when I was telling someone the other day that there was a point in my life I was a maintenance worker in Yellowstone Park.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, for 2 summers.
Wow.
I cleaned up after tourists and picked, paper from the campgrounds and cleaned their toilets. And there was the summer of amphetamines. I think it was 1974, where virtually every week I would run into someone in the campgrounds who would have a massive quantity of amphetamines that they were more than happy to share with me. And for a depressed guy like me, that was a boon, because I was self-medicating. And on Fridays, I would get off work at 5 o'clock or 5:30, whatever it was, and drive from Yellowstone Park back to my parents' home in Park City, Montana, which is outside of Billings. And I would throw down some bennies and start drinking beer and put on Jay Giles or Black Sabbath Paranoid.
Oh, man.
And just drive as fast as I could and just let that pound on me. Yeah. Now, I haven't had a Benny in 40 years, and I haven't,
When's the last time you listened to Black Sabbath?
Well, I actually listened to Paranoid just a couple of months ago because of a role I was working on. And
funny.
I thought, I wonder what that feels like today.
Yeah.
And it feels old.
Yeah.
Now I can listen to Led Zeppelin today and hear the mastery of it and hear the
Right.
musicality of it and hear a lot more of who those guys actually are and were. But at the time, they were right there with Black Sabbath in expressing something that I needed to have expressed that I didn't know how to express and that the rest of society was not giving me permission to express. And again, it's what's the loudest voice in here? And if the loudest voice in
Right.
here is the rage of life being suppressed in me and the insistence on ignoring the things that I see and the things that I feel, and someone gives me permission to let all that be there, then, But no, today I don't listen to that at all. I listen to classical or I listen to jazz and,
Yeah.
country western.
That's funny about jazz. I never in my life could get jazz because being a musician, when I listen to music, I picture the notes on the neck of the guitar or I
Right.
picture what the drummer's doing. Like I visualize music a lot. And when I listen to jazz, I can't figure out what the fuck those guys are doing. You know what I mean? It's just like, because I never read music and I just learned rock and roll from like listening to records. I don't really know music theory. And even now when I
Yeah.
listen to jazz, I'm like, huh? But what's interesting, because that's another category now that I really like bebop. I just love that, especially just,
Yeah.
I don't know, like 50s and 60s bebop, jazz, just like the greats. But the one time it's weird that I used to listen to jazz is when I was using a lot of opiates. And I would just be in this sort of like delta state. I mean, it's that sweet spot when opiates are like working for you. It's rare and it only lasts for a short period of time. There's probably like a 3-month period when I first really got, the beginning stages of addiction to those compounds. And I would just turn my phone off and lock the door. I would put like moving blankets over the door so no one could like hear that I was in there, my neighbors, and I would just camp out in my apartment and I had vinyl, of just like
Yeah.
Charlie Parker and Charlie Mingus and Duke Ellington and just all this great big band stuff and bebop stuff. And I would just crank it like my ears were going to bleed. And that jazz would take me into this beautifully transcendent place. And I would just sit in there for hours and just get high. It was like actually one of the only real good memories for that short period before life turned into a total fucking nightmare of addiction and despair and hopelessness and, suicidal fantasies and all the other good stuff that comes later. Hawking your cassette tapes on the corner for the next hit and all that fun, demoralizing shit that happens. But jazz is a really interesting form of music because it has a very specific frequency of consciousness.
Well, and what it has...
Because it has soul, but it also has a lot of intelligence. I mean...
Well, and what it has is it has a structure within which improvisation occurs.
Right.
And the improvisation is based on something, depending on the player, it's based on their ideas of music to some degree and based upon their feelings of being alive to some degree, based upon their spirituality to some degree. If you listen to Coltrane and start from the beginning and go up to the end of his career, you hear him exploring his race, his culture, his spirituality, and then see how his wife Alice carried on from there and she became a spiritual teacher.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
wow.
yeah, Alice Coltrane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
I'm going to have to check that out. We'll put it in the show notes, folks. You can always get on the mailing list and get those show notes at lukestory.com. Carry on.
So, but again, it's that state of flow that,
right.
And we're looking for, the reason that I was attracted to jazz was that it would take you on a journey, and the journey was to some degree surprising to the player. If the player was good, then he was surprising himself.
They don't know where they're going either.
They know some part of it,
right?
But they don't know how they're going to get there. It's sort of like slalom course down. You need to get back to that chord eventually, and maybe back to that time signature, that that key, but how you get there is going to be based upon what's turning you on today, and to the extent that you can tune into that, you get to go along for the ride.
I just made a correlation based on that with the jam band phenomenon and how it's so interrelated to psychedelics. Going back to the Grateful Dead and everything that spawned out of that style of music, which in the same way as jazz, there is a framework. There is like, a song in there, but there's all this exploration and how that correlates to people sort of freeing themselves of the bondage of the ego and the false self and the thought process, and just kind of almost having these outer body experiences based on that jam music. So I just made the correlation. That's kind of what was happening for me. I just didn't know it. I was having a spiritual experience, which was assisted chemically, which works for a minute, but that brings me to a whole other thing, actually. We're going to get to meditation. It's funny. I'm like, I teased this episode to my mailing list. Like, it's going to be about meditation. I'm like, no, it's not. That's going to be part of it. But there's so much other shit to explore here. What's your take on psychedelics as a means by which to achieve a deeper spiritual experience? Now there's like this huge trend in people doing ayahuasca and MDA. And, I've taken never those, but copious amounts of LSD and mushrooms and things like that. And then studying a lot of the work of Ram Dass and those Timothy Leary and all those guys that really got into the psychedelics as a spiritual pursuit. But in the end, basically all came out of it being like, it's fun, but at the end of the day, you come down and still have to do the work.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, I knew someone who was clean and sober, off all drugs for 18 years, and meditated consistently and regularly for 5 years, and could never quite get over his anger. And he made a conscious choice to go to South America and fast for a few days, and then do 4 ayahuasca trips over the space of 6 days.
Damn.
And because that's the way you do it. That's
how you do it.
That
sounds hardcore.
You're guided through it, and women come. They call them angels. They come and sit in front of you and sing you through your trip. And this cat healed his anger.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, I healed my anger too. I didn't do that. The difference between the two of us and our experience is that we've both been to the top of the mountain and had the benefit of being on the top of the mountain, but one of us learned how to climb.
Wow, dude. Well said.
And so this isn't the last mountain.
Right.
It's not about getting to the top of the mountain. It's about learning how to climb.
Oh, dude. Wow. I love that.
So that's my opinion and my experience.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm asking for.
Well, and that said, MDMA has been one of the most powerful tools that they found for dealing with people who have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
And people, there was this great article a couple of years ago about a couple in Virginia, I believe, who was using MDMA with war veterans, and they used it with one cat who had been a worker at Ground Zero at the World Trade Center, and for 3 weeks had picked up body parts. That was his job. And during that 3 weeks felt that he was doing the most important work of his entire life. After the fact, the only thing he could feel was the horror of picking up body parts. And after 3 weeks, they were body parts that were, rotting.
Oh, my God.
And so he was in this horrible depression and despair. And again, they had a protocol where they guide you through an experience with the MDMA or ecstasy, and did it
involve glow sticks and house music?
I'm not sure, but it involved allowing their positionality to be freed from the horror, so that the horror became a much smaller piece of their overall experience. When you're glued to the horror, that's all you see, and it paints the whole world with horror. When you expand into a wider experience of what you are as consciousness, then the horror is that bit right there. And you don't have to, it's like Hawkins describes it, like, you're at Yankee Stadium at night, there's no one else there, the lights are on, and there's a radio playing in the dugout, and you're sitting right in front of it. You could walk out to center field.
I love that.
The radio's still playing.
Right.
but you're not glued to
Oh,
it.
that's yeah. I remember him saying that on one of those tapes, and I never made the correlation to I thought of it just in terms of the racing mind and the constant thoughts, but not in terms of like a traumatic event like that.
Yeah.
But that's what happens, right? When you're able to zoom out through spiritual work and get some perspective, those events, whether it's death of a loved one or some sort of abuse that you've suffered,
Or the loss of a relationship.
yeah, picking up body parts or whatever.
Yeah.
With a little time and a little recontextualization, it does sort of shrink and become that little voice in the dugout. And you're just like, oh, yeah, I see.
And it's not that it shrinks, it's that you expand.
Okay.
And because you're not shrinking any of this stuff and you're not getting rid of any of this stuff.
Okay.
You know, in the program Alcoholics Anonymous, they have a symbol of a circle within a triangle within a circle. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, I think they have unity, service, recovery on the three sides of that triangle. But that symbol is actually an ancient alchemical symbol that symbolizes the material of the philosopher's stone. And alchemists were searching for that which, when added to lead, would turn it into gold. That which would transmute the lead into the precious metal, not that which would get rid of the lead.
Okay.
It's about transmutation. It's about not changing, and what the Veda, the theory of the Veda or Vedanta says is that there is no such thing as darkness. There is only that place where light has not yet been shed. And light and darkness, and Hawkins talks about this a lot, that there is no darkness. There is just a relative presence or absence of light.
Right.
It's a continuum.
Right.
Same with heat. There's either a presence or an absence of heat. There is no cold.
Right.
There's just an absence of heat.
Is that not a great, simple explanation of non-duality?
Yeah, it's light and water are the ones that used mostly to describe consciousness because you can't grab the stuff,
So you just answered my question in a roundabout way of that, like activism versus apathy and non-action. It's maybe one could say, don't fight the darkness, just make the light brighter.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah.
Because I want to contribute good to the world, but I also don't want to get caught up in thinking that in the fucking arrogance and immaturity of thinking I know the way the world is supposed to be, and I'm going to go make the world fit, the framework that I think it should be fit into. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going to save the world and save.
But it's a really valid question right now, and there's.
Well, I think that's why I'm bringing it up because this is the question everyone's asking because everyone wants change, but it's like, for me, who am I to say what that change is supposed to look like? But if I can really just go inside and express what seems to be intuitively serving the highest good in how I spend my life and the kind of output that I'm doing, this podcast being one small expression of what I feel I can contribute. I'm not trying to change anyone or change anything. I'm just going like, hey, if anyone wants to listen, I'm finding some cool shit and some cool people like Jeff Kober. Check it out.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of, going to the Lady Gaga concert or whatever. Like,
even if I'm going to the Lady Gaga concert, if I'm going there, which I have,
I don't know why I brought that up. She's probably pretty
so
positive.
Much respect for Lady Gaga. She kills me, man. There's a lot going on there.
I do too. I just mean like, I don't know, maybe, or even being on social media or just watching vapid reality shows or whatever. It's just like,
look, at any given moment, I'm feeding the ego or I'm feeding the self, capital S.
Right.
And as someone
meaning the higher self.
The higher self.
Okay.
The true self. And that I want to err on the side of feeding the true self rather than the smaller self. I want always to be conscious of and aware of to what degree am I aligned with the small self needs and to what degree am I aligned with the large self needs, which is the large self wants nothing more than to come together with itself. And this is what consciousness is always trying to do. It's always wanting to come together with itself and know itself as the oneness rather than as the separation. And
Is this why sex feels so good?
Because that's the closest that we generally come to the dissolving of ego boundaries and the connectedness and the higher state that gives us. Absolutely.
And maybe why during sex, at least from the male perspective, you can never be in as far as you want to be. Like you never are able to achieve, I think just because you're still in the physical form, you can never achieve as much merge as you want to devour to the point where you're like, okay, we are one, because there's still a sense of separation because of the physical embodiment.
Yeah. And ideally we recognize that we're seeking something where it can't be found.
Right,
and we use that as
God damn it.
as an arrow.
That would be so
indicate,
easy, if you could just find
no.
You could just find you could just find the perfect one, and then you would be complete.
Well, yeah, maybe
this is the ego speaking.
Maybe that works, Luke.
I've tried it. It doesn't. I have exhausted that.
I've watched you.
As a possibility. Yes, you have, very closely. I'm sure with too much amusement. Let's get into, because a lot of this comes from your study of Vedic traditions and various spiritual traditions, and of course of your exploration of all things meditation. And I know that that's how I'm going to really frame this show leading up to, we're, an hour and 6 minutes in, which is great. I feel like we've been here. We're in that zone where there's no time, which is beautiful. I watch the time because sometimes when this happens, I'm like, holy shit, it's been 3 hours. But I definitely want to back up because you're dropping so much wisdom here. I want to give people the framework of how this came to be. So let's kind of go into a part 2 mode here. How did you first find meditation? And did you have a few attempts at it before you settled on the meditation practice that you now teach?
I meditated for over 20 years before I found the meditation that I teach. And I was meditating daily. At the last few years of meditation before I found this practice, I was meditating an hour a day. Various mindfulness practices or vipassana practices and various ways of trying to still the mind, following the breath. And I was seeking a meditation practice and spiritual truths because I felt broken. I felt that the darkness was the truth of me and I could just barely keep my nose above water. I saw myself as not worthy of having life and certainly not worthy of having a good life or a healthy life or a pleasant life for all sorts of different reasons based in religion and the parenting I received and the experiences I had growing up. Seeing myself as the darkness and not able to get past that no matter how many things I changed. And I changed my life entirely. From self-medicating to not, from needing various substances to get me through a day to not, and seeking an experience of spirituality or God in everything all the time, and not able to change it. And at a certain point, I just gave up. And I had been to India already a few times. I just said, if it hadn't changed by now, it's not going to change. I was 48 at the time, 47.
That's how old I'm about to be.
Well, I was there, and it was still, I was miserable most of the time.
So before you stumbled across Vedic meditation, you had been to India a few times?
I'd been to India, had extraordinary experiences, but meditation, I still wasn't able to have any kind of an experience that was other than my thinking. I would have, feelings of transformation, feelings of going beyond. I met the divine in a couple of different forms in India. Hugely transformational experiences.
In the form of embodiment by a guru or teacher, or just mystical experiences?
Mystical experiences with various murtis or statues.
Interesting.
Asking very clearly for transformation to occur in my life, and having an experience in a temple where there was a life there, saying, "You sure about that?"
Wow.
Wow. I'm going. Yeah, I think so. And then having the same thing happen a week and a half later with the same, an image of the same goddess.
Wow.
You're asking for everything which is no longer relevant in your life to be taken away. You sure about that? Yeah. And then I got home and my marriage ended the day I flew in from India.
Wow.
And it was like, that story, that would take us another hour. But all sorts of experiences like that were other than the mundane reality of being me, but still no way of having an actual experience of myself as other than my thoughts and my feelings.
So you were never able to achieve what I call that gap of separation.
The gap of separation.
Where you're able to step into the witness position and be
Yeah.
like, oh, that's interesting. Look what my ego's doing. Look what my mind is doing. Look at the animal nature, the instincts.
Yeah.
Like you're so close. The way I kind of describe that, because I'm very familiar with that, is sort of like you're standing in front of the Mona Lisa and your fucking nose is touching it. It's like you can never fully get a perspective of that piece of art until you're able to stand back, 8 feet, and you go, oh shit, now there's a you, and then there's a painting that you're observing. So,
or like standing at the front of a bus with your nose pressed up against the windshield and it's going, 40 miles an hour through the city. Everything's going past so fast you can sort of see it, but you can't interact with it at all. You can't appreciate it at all.
Right.
But step back 10 feet, let the bus driver do his thing, and you can start seeing, there, I want to go visit that store, and they look like they're having a good time. You can start enjoying the scenery. Yeah.
So why do you think it is that even though you had these couple profound mystical or spiritual experiences and you were practicing meditation for all those years, that you were never able to achieve that? What was the missing ingredient?
Most meditations, and the ones that I was practicing, were about training the mind to give this a different experience, this being me. My mind is not a good guide for my experience at all.
You either?
Because all it knows is what has already happened. And what life in me demands is the ever new, not the ever repeating known. So if I'm just trying to train the mind to give me a little bit better experience of my history being played out again and again and again, there's no place for that to go. Other than just, you can get to even, but you'll never have anything transformational. What life in us demands is transformation. In order for transformation to occur, I must have an experience of being something other than this surface experience of life. I must have a transcendental experience. I must have an actual experience of what I am that is other than all of that. Consciousness without an object. The whole of consciousness rather than this content of consciousness, as Hawkins would talk about.
Mm-hmm. Is it not sort of pointless to, from the context of those, not to say, oh, this meditation is right and that one's wrong, because then again we're in duality. But I share so much frustration in alignment with your experience that I always tried to meditate, and I thought that the point of it was to stop your mind from thinking. And so I constantly felt like I was a bad meditator, or that I was failing at it, because I would sit there and pay attention to my breath or this or that or whatever, doing guided meditations. And then if my mind would start producing thought, I'd be like, oh, there I go. I fucked it up. I can't even meditate right. Or I'd just be frustrated and never able to transcend, because I'm trying to to me, now being a practitioner of Vedic meditation gratefully under your training, is that it's like trying to stop your heart from beating or trying to make your fingernails not grow. Like, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
Trying to make the mind, that's what the mind was designed for, is to compute. Mm-hmm. So you can't stop it from computing, but you can use techniques to zoom out from that and disconnect from the computation, where you observe it computing and you're not as bothered by it. It does become the voice in the dugout in the stadium.
Yeah, and to just even introducing the idea of lending your thinking less credence is huge and can be can be transformational. But even that, without the experience of knowing yourself as other than the mind, that's just a conception. That's not, I don't know how
Right.
much good it's going to do you.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, I can imagine that, but how can I have that experience myself? Because, again, we define ourselves by what's the biggest experience we're having. And if I'm feeling depressed, that's my experience of the world. If my thoughts are running rampant about what needs to change in order for me to be okay, that's my experience of the world. If I'm filled with fear, everything is going to look like a source of either saving me from the fear or causing more fear, or the cause of the fear that I have. Hubert Selby Jr. Once said, "Sometimes I feel like a scream looking for a mouth." You know, that's what goes on when we just pay attention to, when all we know is what this thinking and these emotions are telling us, and the stories we tell ourselves about that. We're at the mercy of that. We must have the experience of what we are that is other than that.
There's a correlation here to the Matrix.
Oh, clearly, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, those cats are clearly meditators.
Yeah. That's what you're describing reminds me of, as being unplugged, where you're like, whoa, there's a totally different experience of reality here that I might have never tapped into. And
yeah.
God knows, you ever think about like how many lifetimes we've probably lived never having any other experience than the thoughts and the feelings, and living by instincts and survival, and, you know, being at the mercy of your mind 100% of a lifetime? Like, I wonder how many fucking times we've just had that experience before the benefit of arriving and, you know, meeting that one person that went, hey, maybe try this meditation or try this, you know, whatever it is, yoga or anything that might take you there, or ayahuasca or whatever, where you get to step out of it and go, oh, holy shit, I've been plugged into this false world that isn't even fucking real, thinking it's real. It's crazy to imagine, like, how many times we might have gone around without ever having that experience.
Yeah.
So how did you... So you're trying all these other forms of meditation. You have a couple mystical experiences, but because for whatever reason the practices that you had could never get you there, how did you end up stumbling across Vedic meditation?
You know, a friend of ours, Renee, told Adele that she went and saw this guy and he gave her a word and she repeated it and it made her happy. I'm simplifying, but that's basically what the story was. And Adele,
dude, it's not that much more complicated, really.
Well, and Adele said, "Come on, let's go hear this guy." And I went, all right. And we went to see this cat talking in West Hollywood. And we went into the apartment. It was a lovely apartment, but I looked around at the people and I just judged the hell out of them. I said, "These aren't my people." Then I saw a picture of an orange robe cat, you know, where the guy was going to speak, and I just said, "I'm out of here," before he even came out to talk. And Adele went with me, you know, and the guy who had ushered us in went, wait. I said, yeah, have fun, and left. And Renee called and said, "So you guys sign up?" I said, "No, Jeff left," you know.
So you literally walked out?
Walked out, never saw the guy speak.
Wow.
Because I didn't want to, you know, I didn't trust someone to tell me something spiritually, and he's going to ask money from me and all that. So
right.
I didn't, you know, I'm miserable, but I don't want to be a loser.
Right.
You know, right. I don't want to be made a fool of.
Right.
And so then another friend of ours had gone to that talk and learned how to meditate and said, "It's true. You close your eyes, repeat this word, and it makes you happier." And so the guy came back a month later, and we went to hear him talk, and we took another couple with us, and the couple we were with, the guy ended up heckling the speaker at the end of the talk. And I still wasn't going to learn, even though he had said some things that really made sense to me. And Renee said, "No, here, call this number." And she gave me the number of the guy, Tom Knowles. And I called him up, and it was 11:30 at night, and he answered the phone in a very good mood. And I said, "So why should I trust you?" And he said, "Well, don't trust me, but trust your experience. Did you feel good when I was talking to you?" "Yeah." "Did it make sense what I was saying?" "Yeah." And, you know, and I said, "Well, okay. And I always thought that you weren't supposed to pay for spiritual teachings."
Right.
And he said, "Yeah, that's a common belief we have in the West, in spite of the fact that, you know, the Catholic Church is the largest landholder in the universe."
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
And the fact that he said, "And if I could come up with a way of giving this away, without having to fund my life, then I would do that. But you're paying for my availability as a teacher. And he said, and as well in spiritual, in the realm of life itself, in order for transformation to occur, there must be an exchange of energy and information. He said, what I'm bringing you is, 40 years of experience of doing this sort of thing, and my time, my expertise, the studies that I've done. What you're bringing me is your attention and your financial contribution. I said, oh, well, I guess I have no other reason to not do it. He said, what time do you want to come in tomorrow? And I went and learned, and immediately I had an experience of transcending my head. And let me tell you, it was, I took my first breath in years because suddenly I was unplugged. I was not just this.
This is the experience I have every time I meditate. It's crazy, dude, since I learned this technique. And this is not an infomercial to convince people to take Vedic meditation. It's my experience. But I meditated this morning I cheated a little. I think I went 25 minutes instead of 20, 20 twice a day is the practice. But I mean, there's nothing you could do to get me to not meditate. Even yesterday, Elliot was over, who and also learned to meditate from you. And it's like anytime, I don't always do the afternoon because I unfortunately, or fortunately, I usually hit this peak of productivity and creativity and flow around 6 o'clock. 5 o'clock, I kind of crash. Then 6, when I would normally meditate, I'm really crushing it. And it's like, oh, God, I got to stop myself from this creative burst and meditate. But Elliot was here, and it's like, we're like, it's 5:45. We're like, Medi? Yes, dude. Time for meditation. And it's like, boom, we just love it. It's like there's nothing better than that,
which
that
is
reprieve.
Which is an indication of the pricelessness of the practice.
Oh, dude.
Like, Will Dalton, who's also a teacher of this meditation, once says, so Jeffo, he's Australian, and they always add Jeffo, someone offered you $1 million. Would you let go of your meditation? I said, no. He says, 10 million. I said, no. And he said, how much? I said, nothing.
There's no way.
There's no, you can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I first went to one of your talks, I don't remember where it was, but the intro, because I had met you and you're like, I'm a meditation teacher and I'm into that kind of stuff. So I went and heard you speak and I was like, yeah, I'm into it. By that time, I didn't have really any resistance towards those ideas. I would definitely not be weirded out by a picture of a dude in an orange robe or any of that. I've done way weirder stuff a million times. Been to India and gotten duped by all kinds of false gurus and all sorts of shit. Another story, but it wasn't any of that. But I definitely... It was a little bristled by the fact that there was a fee associated with it, so there's a talk, and then at the end it's like, so if you guys want to sign up, this is the way it works. You're paying for it. And I too had that sort of like, but this is spiritual. Like, you're supposed to get this for free. This is like, God wouldn't charge you, for some wisdom or something. And it was a bit, I had to reframe that for myself and think about it. And then I thought about, like a pastor of a church, or I don't know, if I go watch Eckhart Tolle speak, I mean, somebody has to pay for the fucking theater. You know what I mean? It's like your meditation teacher can't go work at Best Buy.
Then he won't be available to
then
teach
like,
you.
how's he going to teach people to meditate?
Yeah.
So, I had to sort of just like wrap my head around it.
And also, I've taught a couple of people for free.
Yeah.
They didn't value the practice and they didn't continue meditating.
No skin in the game.
No skin in the game.
This is the same thing with the coaching that I do. I guess I just don't even like the word coaching. I'm trying to find and I should just Google like acronyms for coaching because that's like such a goofy name. But when I work with people in sort of a guidance, counseling capacity, I charge a lot of money. Like probably more money than you charge to teach someone to meditate. Well, it's not really on a scale. It's just a set fee, but it's a good chunk, And I had some issues with it myself personally. I think that were more rooted in my own self-worth, frankly, if I'm just going to be really honest. And then I had to just get over that shit. And I can tell when I have a conversation with someone that's interested in working with me that they're either serious about it or not if money becomes the issue. And even people that I talk to in like a consultation, and I know they have the money because we've been talking and I know about their life. if money's the issue, it's not the money, it's that they don't actually want to change.
Mm-hmm.
And even people that it's a bit of a stretch to even afford the program that I'm offering that want to do it, it's a very clear indication that they're going to value the time and that it's going to be effective because they have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And it's more even of a risk for them.
Well, and it's a message to themselves that this matters.
Yeah.
And that's what, the Heisenberg principle states that the observer changes the experiment.
Right.
And what the Veda would say is that the universe is looking for a cue from the individual. What kind of universe do you want me to be? And if I want it to be a universe within which transformation is the point of my life, and growth is the point of my life, and expansion is the point of my life, then that's the universe I'm going to get. If I'm just trying to get enough money so that I feel safe, or get enough things so that I feel okay, or get enough approval that I feel okay, then that's the kind of universe I'm going to be operating in. And then it's a either or situation. I'm going to keep this money because it gives me safety. I'm not going to spend it over here to give me something that might give me a wider experience of life, that might give me a more holistic experience of life, that will give me a way by which to become a part of the flow of life.
At what point after you learned to meditate did you decide, I want to teach other people how to do this?
I never decided that.
Oh.
What happened was, I would meditate, and every time this cat came to town, I would go and listen to him talk again, and I'm from Montana. I was raised on a farm, and I just started helping out. I would set up chairs. I would help welcome people when they were going to learn to meditate. I would, calm their fears or talk to them about my experience. And then I ended up starting to help the teacher in his teaching. I became like an apprentice or a protege because I just hung around too long, mm-hmm. And because I needed to hear this stuff again and again because I'd been so grounded in suffering experience of life that I needed to be continually reawakened to the fact that that's not what it's about. It's about something else. That's not what it's about. It's about something else. It's about joy, bliss, being, fullness. And at a certain point, he said, I'm going to train some teachers, and you should come along. I said, no, man, I'm an actor. And he said, no, you're actually a teacher. The only question is, are you going to be an informed teacher or not? I said, listen, you're the guru. Get me a series, man. That's what I want. And I said, if I have a series, I won't go. And if I don't, I'll do it. And, because it's a 3-month commitment out of town, partially in India, partially at the time in Flagstaff, Arizona. And I did give up a role in Trailer Park of Terror, but I went and did this training, and I became a teacher. And here's the truth of it for me: like I know how to do this thing, and I know how to teach it. And the truth is that I've learned more by teaching it than I ever would have just by studying it. And one of the biggest things is I was just teaching a course in Australia 2 weeks ago, and in the middle of the course, this was a course of advanced Vedic knowledge is what it was, and I said, I've discerned that my spirit animal is Eeyore, from the Winnie the Pooh, like, it's another day, and my business partner there, her spirit animal is Tigger. She's like, okay, here we go, so the two of us together actually make a whole human being, and give me the energy actually to teach. And I was depressed for years, and that still comes up occasionally. And especially when I first started teaching, there would be people coming to the door, and the last thing I wanted to do was to see anyone. But you can't teach a bliss technique from a place of despair and depression. So you would have to arbitrarily choose to feel better. And guess what? It works. And you would have to arbitrarily choose to pay more attention to someone else's experience than your own. And guess what? It changes your experience. So that was huge for me. It has been huge for me to it's not about me when I'm teaching. It's about giving you value added for your willingness to sit there, for your willingness to commit money. It's about, I want you to have the best possible experience of this you can. It doesn't matter how you see me. It doesn't matter how I seem. It doesn't matter what you think of me. It doesn't matter especially what I think of me. What matters is that you're having an experience that can move in the direction of the experience that I'm having. And so all of those things have been absolutely essential for me to progressively disentangle myself from the skein of ideas about what I am, or what I'm worth, or what I'm supposed to be doing, or what I should be thinking, or how you're supposed to see me, and all of that.
I also hear in there a sense of accountability, to your own process, and that's been my experience of working with people in the context of being a mentor or a coach or a guide. It's like, well, I got to be doing this shit too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's like, otherwise there's this, nothing feels grosser than hypocrisy when you have self-awareness and you're like, oh, I'm just like talking shit.
Oh, I can't.
I'm talking the talk, but I'm not walking the walk. And you know what I mean when you feel that inside, that
well, because you're lying.
That lack of integrity feels really creepy.
And I'm the worst liar. I tried it. Trust me. I tried to just lie and mouth the words without having the experience of them, but it rings hollow.
Do you think that your ability to convey this information and these teachings effectively and profoundly in a way that really impacts people is due to the fact that you've suffered in your own life to a degree, and you've experienced dark nights of the soul, and are not practicing a spiritual bypass method where you're just pretending like, putting on a happy face and pretending like everything's bliss?
Yeah. It's,
like you've seen the darkness, the darkness, and therefore the light's able to shine brighter?
I think so. I think because we all hear the resonance of truth that is, resonance implies that we have the same wavelength going on. And so someone can learn this from me who has had experiences like I've had. Some other people hear me talk and they go like, I'm getting as far away from that cat as I can. Some people, hear another teacher talk and dismiss the practice, and then come and hear me talk and suddenly go like, oh, this sounds very practical and like it might actually work for me. And, it's not my job to figure that out. And I tried to teach from a model that was other than my own experience. It just doesn't work for me.
Does it feel phony when you're...
It does. It feels like I'm presenting an act, and, I can't even do that as an actor.
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't have that skill set.
Well, that brings me to my next question. And, spiritual bypass is one aspect of it. And I think I like to bring that up because being quote unquote spiritual is so trendy now, which is a double-edged. Oh yeah. I don't, you're not a big social media guy, but yeah, go on Instagram and like hashtag meditation or mindfulness. And it's like, it's a thing that people, it's like cool to be spiritual, which is fucking great.
Right.
There's that part of me that's like, I was into the shit before all you guys. You know what I mean? It's like when you discover the new band before everyone else, and then the band gets popular. Like, I was listening to this 10 years ago. I'm like, you guys are all late to the party. But that's just my own head trip. It's a great thing that people are into meditation and that it's trendy to do headstands on the fucking beach on Instagram or whatever. But it's like, I'm halfway joking. But there is also a definite air of spiritual bypass in a lot of people that are sort of passing themselves off or trying to market themselves or successfully marketing themselves as like a spiritual teacher. And you look at them and you're like, you haven't been through the shit. You haven't been to hell and back. And so it's difficult for me as, an observer or a student. Hey, maybe let me listen to what this person has to say. And if I don't sense that depth of being within them, if I don't sense that that empathy from them, that they've really been through it themselves, it's difficult for me to lend credence to their teachings. Like, I got to know a teacher has been to the fucking gates of hell and found a way back before I'm willing to find out what the trail looks like from them. So have you observed in, just in spiritual circles that there's a lot of that spiritual bypass going where people kind of stumble on it and they, oh, it's all about bliss and being happy and like, yay, spiritual and unicorns and rainbows and all that. But is it really necessary to go through the experience of the shadow to really have the goods?
You know what? I don't know.
What a humble answer.
I mean, all I can know is what it's like for me.
Okay.
And then I can imagine if I were doing some of the things I seen being done, where it is that I would be coming from in here.
Yeah.
Then in my imagination, it's, that there's some voice that's really loud in here and some rationalization that is telling me it's cool that I'm doing this. Like, you can have a motivation to help out some organization by putting on a bake sale, but at the same time, you're doing it in order to advertise your new cake shop.
Right.
It's like
Right.
you're saying, no, I'm doing this for the Girl Scouts.
Right.
No, you're doing it for advertising. So
Right.
at least be honest about that. And
Okay.
So
this is like, well, there's that element of virtue signaling too, of like
virtue signaling. Well, you can go back to. I mean, I was raised in a Christian church, and and that's the Pharisees. Praying so that you were seen praying.
Yeah.
It wasn't about actually praying. It was about being seen praying.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another side of it. There's the spiritual bypass of sort of skipping over the hard work that it takes to.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the deal, man.
Yeah.
It is fucking challenging to be a human on the planet. It is the hardest job there is. And we're all going to go through the things that we go through to find our path through it. And, it's like, I know Hawkins said several times, he says, don't try to be better than you are. Be what you are. And at some point, you might find yourself no longer eating meat. Sometimes you might find yourself actually, you can have the idea that it's better to love than to hate, but, don't try to make yourself, because it won't work.
Right.
But at some point you'll find yourself choosing to love rather than to hate. We were talking about vegetarianism earlier. I went to India, a couple of years ago, and walked for a month with Sri M, because he was walking the whole length of India. In order to, because it was a promise he made to his master as a young man, and because he wanted to speak to people about the need for religious tolerance of each other and sexual gender equality. I walked with him for a month and lived with the Indians. I was the strange white guy in the corner, and everyone was like, "Who invited him?" And I ate with them for a month, and my wife said she was cool with me doing that as long as I took her to Paris for Christmas. So I met her in Paris after my walk, and I ordered a hamburger and picked it up, and it wouldn't go within a foot of my mouth. It wouldn't go. And I haven't eaten meat since. And it's not because I thought it was virtuous to become a vegetarian.
Right.
I love cattle. I have had lots of experiences of love with calves and and all of that. I raised cattle. I've talked to a lot of them in India, but I didn't choose to become a vegetarian. It's just meat won't go in anymore.
Right.
So what people are doing the best they know how to do. They're trying this, and you know what? If you don't have a way of experiencing something other than your ego self and the need for all the needs that it has, which is to find its herd, to discern what the enemy is, all those things that are popping off in here all the time. If you don't have a way of experiencing yourself as other than that, you're going to look over there and see what that looks like and then try to put that suit on yourself. And how do they talk? Oh, they talk like this. Oh, and they, you mentioned Maharishi earlier. If you read the introduction to his translation of the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, he uses the term mood making. And what you're talking about is mood making.
Right.
And it's where you have some sort of an experience that is elevated, and then you don't know how to get back there. You don't know how to keep it, so you keep making a mood of that experience because that's the only tool you got.
Right.
And if someone says, "Hey, what are you doing? Because I like what you're doing," you go like, "Oh, really? Okay, then I'm going to keep doing it." And oh, you're going to pay me money to keep doing it? Of course, I'll keep doing it. It's people are doing it the best they know how to do it.
Well, I like what you're saying in terms of just be where you are in terms of your own evolution and own that and just be authentic about it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the thing that's appealing to me, is someone that's kind of willing to make fun of themselves and just go, hey, this is where I am at this particular point, doing the best I can, because that really is the best you can do. And it's, to me, even if I might not, it's like if I might not even agree with someone in their approach to life, let's say, or their philosophy, if they're fucking real about what they're doing and they believe in it, then I'm on board.
It's integrity is the word that I love. Integrity.
You know, it's like, it just feels like, all right, cool. I'm not into their like scene necessarily, but I respect it at least. I might not like it, but I respect it.
Because they're doing what's in them to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this goes into, in terms of mood making and all of the sort of accoutrement that could come along with being a quote unquote spiritual teacher. How have you managed to avoid, or have you at times not avoided, building that false spiritual ego where the ego's observing you become the spiritual guy, gain some power, gain some wisdom, and then you're sort of playing this role of the spiritual guy, wearing the orange robe and the turban and sitting on the silk pillows and lighting incense and having people fawn over you and
I think one of
put
the
up a bunch of flowers around your little meditation cushion and that whole fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like that whole trip. Because you're not like that. Like you're a pretty normal dude, but you're also a spiritual teacher. Has there ever been a temptation to like see yourself as special because you've got it?
We're always, there's always, or there's occasionally the desire of all of us have to be special.
Right.
But the fact is, I think one of the great things is that I've had to go back and forth between being an actor and being a meditation teacher. And, in the acting world, they don't care if you teach meditation. In the meditation world, they generally don't care if you're an actor, And so, I've had to, and as an actor, you have to be open to embracing any expression of humanity. So you have to, and in order to do that well, you have to know those parts of yourself. So I'm under no illusion that I've become an enlightened, purified human being. I'm a human being, and I do it as well as I know how to do it. And often I, forget everything other than just my humanness, and I operate from that. So that's one thing. And another thing is it's just. Can you imagine the level of responsibility to have to be wise all the time and to have to be enlightened all the time and to have to, make a mood that's big enough to uplift a crowd? It's like, that's just way too much work, man. And I don't have, there's a talent that I'm missing in that area, and thank God. But I do want to tell you one story, because last year, I've been teaching for about 10 years now, just over 10 years. And last year I noticed that I was being one guy who went out and got acting jobs and did them, and another guy who taught meditation, and I would just know which one I was going to be. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to be one guy who happens to teach meditation and who happens to act. And then I got this pilot called His Wives and Daughters, where I played this world-famous old country western star who had many wives and a few daughters. And had
what a perfect role.
I described it to my son, and he said, well, Dad, that's you. And, his newest wife was 26 and beautiful. And the show was bookended. Jane Seymour was my first, the wife I love so much, I married her twice. But it was bookended and interspersed with these behind-the-scenes sorts of interviews. And so I determined I was just going to be one guy for meditation and acting. And after we filmed all the behind-the-scenes stuff one night, and after they were done, I said, "Oh, wait, turn on the camera again. I got something." And I said to the director, "Ask me about my beads." And he says, "So tell me about your beads." And I said, "Oh, these? Yeah, I got these from Maharishi back in, I think it was 72. He said, Maharishi? I said, yeah, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi taught me how to meditate. And I picked up my bourbon. I said, that and a little bit of bourbon gets you through just about anything. And I took a sip. They opened the show with that clip.
Wow.
And it was like, that's what meditation is. You don't have to be white robes and, fluffy to benefit from it, to do it. It's about becoming better what you are. and allowing life to express through you and being able to give yourself enough space for that to happen. So that was like the pilot didn't get picked up.
I wish it did. I want to see that scene.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah, I
Oh,
have
cool.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to
it was
see
just
it.
I fell down on the floor laughing when I saw it because it was just so. It was so much just the epitomization of what I mean, which is, we're all teaching consciousness all the time. The way that I do anything is the way I do everything. The way that I interact with the checker at Whole Foods is more indicative of my spiritual truth or my willingness to commit to being the truth of what I am than how many times a day I meditate, And so we're always showing consciousness to others and sharing consciousness with others. And to the degree that I can make it about something other than me, which means about you or about something greater, and look outward rather than inward, after I've had the experience of looking inward past all my own garbage, and try to bring service and flow to the world and try to give rather than to get, then I'm living a spiritual life. Then I'm really in the game, because the other thing that meditation really gives me, it's not just a vacation for myself. It gets me in touch with the place where I am fulfillment itself. And then the needs of the ego take on less weight because I know that the world can't give me what I'm getting in here.
Totally.
It can't.
Yeah.
It's not available out there. It's not available in the perfect person or the perfect job or the perfect amount of money. It's only available in here. And once I have it in here and know myself as that truth within, then it's no longer about getting, it's about giving, because fulfillment can only give of itself. Fulfillment can only flow outward. And when I can couch my life in those terms and go out into any situation and just to give of myself, that's when I know I'm in the game. That's when I know that it's that I'm in alignment.
It's weird. It's like you're through that expanded awareness, your values change, right? It's like that's when my experience is just what's important to me is different than it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think the things that I value are more real and meaningful and intangible. But I didn't set out one day like, okay, I'm going to write a list of my current values, and by next month I'm going to value all these things that are, more holy. It's just like different things become important.
Yeah.
In also in relationship to people in the world, it's just like what I'm looking for from myself and from others has changed so much as a result of meditation and all these practices. Like the shit that I'm willing to put up for myself is not much. I have self-acceptance, but there's certain lines within myself that I won't cross.
Yeah.
To say that I'm maybe, getting a little more integrity. And I love what you said about being one person. There's some tapes I used to listen to by this sort of a spiritual teacher. And he always said, as he evolved spiritually, I'm one man no matter where I go. And he mentioned going to the grocery store, and maybe he went to church, and he goes on an airplane. He goes here and there. He goes to a job. He's in a relationship. And he described that as integrity, being one person,
Yeah.
And that's, God, dude, like, talk about like valuing something, having a goal to strive for is like, wow, can I really be one guy if I'm interviewing you? What if you were like a 24-year-old supermodel from Brazil sitting here? Would I be able to just have the same conversation I just had with you? Not the same conversation, but be the same guy.
Yeah.
In other words, just be me.
Yeah.
And what's weird about that, and it sounds like you had a similar experience of just, God, what a fucking relief, dude. It's so much less work to just be your sloppy self. You know what I mean? It's like I've recently, I think since I started doing this show and just, I don't know, making myself more public through social media, and I'm producing media that I'm, releasing out into the world. And it's like, when I did the first episode, I struggled a lot with it because I didn't know how real I wanted to be. Because once you like put something in the internet, even though you're a nobody at the time you put it out, you could become kind of a somebody later, and then that shit exists.
Yeah.
So I didn't know in terms of my history and my past and just how much realness I wanted to portray. And I made a decision to just be pretty damn real. And it's so weird. What surprised me is the response I've gotten from people is like the more goofy and just silly and retarded that I act, and just the more real I am on my social media and on this podcast, the more people love it.
Yeah.
It's just so weird. I'm like, really? You guys like actually,
Because it's relatable.
you actually like me when I'm being my crazy
Yeah.
self and I'm not
Yeah.
hiding who I am? And even in interpersonal relationships, just getting to the point where I'm like, God, I'm just sick of fucking hiding and closing my heart to people and to experience, and just like we've talked, and you said, you know, when I get uncomfortable, I call you. So when you hear from me, you know shit's hitting the fan, and you always say, dude, you're expanding. That's all that's happening. And the way I look at it is almost like you're sort of inflating like a balloon in a small room, and you start hitting the walls, and then you need a bigger room, you know?
That's
And it's like, I'm finding I have so much more energy because the hypervigilance of protecting myself and not being seen for who I am in fear of rejection is so much work.
Well, and just the work of
like, dude.
thinking about what I think you're thinking about
Exactly.
me.
Yeah.
And trying to change that. It's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
can't even change the way I think, let alone the way you think.
Yeah,
So,
it's just so freeing, man. So I appreciate that perspective, and I just want to just give you a sincere and heartfelt appreciation for helping me to arrive at so much of this discovery over the past few years, and I'm just having so much fun in my life now.
it shows, man. Just to sit here and talk with you in this environment is showing me you in just a really beautiful and holistic fashion. It's really nice to see.
Oh, cool,
Yeah,
man.
it's very
Yeah,
cool.
I'm having fun exploring, getting to know so many fascinating people, and sharing my enthusiasm for people like you with the world. And there's people listening. I mean, I'm creeping up on 1 million downloads on the show. It's
Wow.
like, wow, that's a lot of freaking ears to be filling with hopefully really good information. And also, it's like I'm exposing kind of who I am to so many people,
Yeah.
and giving less fucks all the time about what people
And
think.
not dying when you expose yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I'm sure
In
there's
fact, the opposite.
a lot of people that are like, yeah, I see who you are. Thank you for presenting that, and I'm not interested. I'm not listening to your show, and I don't like what you do and what you stand for and whatever. And being totally cool with that is a very it's a just a sense of freedom I'm really enjoying, and just having the energy to just kind of like, wow, now that I don't have to, like you said, try and control other people's perception. It's like, dude, wow, the world is my oyster. It's just, wow, I can just be me, whatever. It's fucking awesome. So thank you for helping me to arrive there.
I so appreciate that. And,
Yeah. So as we start to wrap things up here, and what do you got going on in your life right now? What are you working on? You got any acting projects or traveling for meditation? What's going on in your world?
I was just in Australia teaching for 2 weeks. Probably go back there in the spring. I'm on my way. I'm teaching this weekend here in LA. Next week I'm going back to upstate New York, working on a series called Big Dogs with my friends Summer Crockett Moore and Tony Glazer, who are producing that. I come back here. I do a couple episodes of NCIS Los Angeles. Got a movie called Beauty Mark that's doing the festival circuit now. I won Best Actor at the LA Film Festival for my work as a reprehensible but broken human being.
Oh,
in
congratulations,
this
man! I
movie.
didn't know
Thank
that.
you. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I got things going on, and I just been shooting Wet Plate Collodion, and I love doing that. I got a couple pieces that are going to be in a show at Penumbra in New York. So I just stay busy with one thing or the other all the time, and acting has seemed to be really taking off this last couple of years in a different way. I've been doing it for over 35 years, but
Right.
That's
awesome. Congratulations.
They seem to want to see me right now.
That's
so it's a
awesome.
beautiful
So do
thing.
I love it when I'm on Netflix and I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
I know that guy.
I think you're the only person I know personally that's like on shows on a regular basis. It's really fun to see that. It's cool.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
So in terms of wrapping this up, I have one final question that I ask every guest, and that is, you've taught me so much in life, and in this episode, you've taught the audience an abundance of great wisdom here today. Who have been 3 teachers or teachings, could be a book, philosophy, a person, that have influenced you that you might point the listeners to that want to learn more about where you got this stuff?
The first teacher who really affected me deeply was Sri Aurobindo, who was an enlightened master and one of the greatest Vedic sages of the 20th century. And that's what I was studying the first couple of times I went to India, and staying at the ashram, or actually the Auroville, which is in South India, and was started as a way of embodying the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, and bringing a higher experience of life around. David Hawkins, whom you turned me on to,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You know,
yeah,
is someone who embraces the Advaitic perspective, the just way of seeing oneness, integrity as the truth of what is, and everything else is just, just a place where you're not knowing that, where you're ignoring that. Hawkins is, I love Hawkins. And right now, I don't know how much, where he'll stand in the pantheon as I go forward, but Josh Waitzkin is just killing me right now, The Art of Learning.
Oh, not familiar. Cool.
Yeah, your pal Tim Ferriss has had him on a couple of times, but Josh Waitzkin, The Art of Learning, there was a book and a movie years ago called Searching for Bobby Fischer, about a young chess prodigy. That's Josh Waitzkin, was the young chess prodigy.
Oh,
and so his and then he became a Tai Chi Chuan master after he was a chess master. And he talks about just the reality of, and the actual nuts and bolts of, being your best self and bringing your A game no matter what's going on, and not being at the mercy of your surroundings. And it's an extraordinary book. I'm halfway through it and just taking it very slowly and really soaking it in. And I'm gonna break the rules and also say that the surrender experiment.
Elliot, I think you turned Elliot onto that, and he told me about that.
That was, because I was in Australia a few months ago and needing to teach, and it was the last thing I wanted to do. My pilot hadn't been picked up. I was miserable, and it was like, no, I refused to play. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, so if you want them taught, God, you go do it. And my friend who, had money in the game said, you need to read this, and I read this book, and it was very helpful for me at that moment.
Do you know what the author's name? The Surrender Experiment?
The Surrender Experiment. He's the same guy who wrote The Untethered Soul. Michael.
We'll find it. We'll put it in the show notes. Cool. That's
Sorry,
awesome.
Michael.
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because Elliot keeps bugging me. You got to read that book.
Oh,
Jeff
man.
told me about it.
Yeah, and what you're describing about what you're doing now, which is letting yourself be who you are and seeing what it does, and then going forward from that. That's what the whole book is about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Timely. I think there's a reason I keep kind of having that tug. Like, what was that book? I think about it periodically, and I haven't pulled the trigger, so I'm going to do that.
All right, man.
Okay, and then in closing, where can people find you, your work, if someone wants to learn to meditate from you, find you on social media, websites, all that stuff?
JeffKoberMeditation.com. Jeff Kober Meditation on Facebook. That's basically it.
And also on Instagram. I know you're not a big.
I think
big
I'm on there, but I
you
don't,
are. I was looking at it last night. I was like, "There's not that many pictures, but there actually are. You know what would be
and
dope?
I'm a photographer.
I know.
So
That's what I was thinking. I was like, his photography should all be on here, but I know how it is. You need people to do that. Kind of
I
shit,
need someone to show me how to do it. I'm not adept. In that area.
I get it. Look at all this equipment here. I mean, it took me months to figure out how to do this.
And
shit.
that brilliant woman over there taking care of it all.
Thank God for
Thank
that.
God
yes.
for that.
So yes, help is essential. But you can, people listening, you can find Jeff on Instagram as well. And then just to let people
and
know.
also just on the Jeff Kober Meditation, there's a place to sign up. For the last 6.5 years, I've been putting out a daily thought. Which is just one way of looking at the world differently today, and I just do it. It costs no money. It's free.
Yeah.
And what I get out of it is that I have to put it out every day, and it's taught me a lot about selflessness. And I have to read things and think about things in a way that is other than the way my mind normally works. So you can sign up for that at Jeff Kober Meditation.
Yeah, that's amazing that you're still doing that, because I remember a few years ago when I first met you, I was like, oh, that's cool. He'll probably do that for a few months. These daily, because they're, they're not long. Listeners, don't be afraid that it's like, some novel that you have to read, but they definitely you've taken some consideration and time.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey,
It's not a tweet.
yeah, it's not like, hey, just think positive today. Have a good day, guys. I mean, they're pretty profound and simply stated, but there's definitely like some intention there that's you can tell you've taken the time, and they're very thoughtful, even though they're brief.
Here's the deal I made with myself.
I was like, how long is he going to do this shit? How exhausting.
Yeah, I'm asking the same question. But the deal I made was, if someone actually commits to reading this whole thing, they're going to feel better at the end than they did before they started.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I try.
Have
to do.
you considered compiling those daily thoughts into a book?
I have someone looking at that right now.
Oh, cool.
Someone trying to.
I've
do
always
that.
thought that when I get them, because they're brilliant and they're brief and digestible. But a lot of great teachers have done that, where they have like a daily meditation book that takes you through a year or whatever. So it'd be cool to see that in one consolidated place. But yeah, you guys go to jeffkobermeditation.com, sign up for the newsletter. I'm on it myself. I can vouch for it. Okay, cool. Well, I think that about wraps us up, dude. We're right at 2 hours and 25 seconds.
I am
man.
so late. My wife is going to kill me. She wanted to get a pedicure, and she doesn't have a car today.
Well, you can 100% blame me.
I will.
Say I tried to get up, and Luke had these cameras on, and he wouldn't let me go, and it's all his fault.
What a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you soon.